Welcome everybody. It's a minute past one. We'll give everyone just maybe one more minute. Welcome to Lunch and Learn, Safe Listening Technology from Sony on day 2 of TechShare Pro. I think if everybody's in, we can get started. Yeah.
Great. So shall I?
One moment. I'll just do a little bit of the housekeeping stuff, and then I'll hand over once I've got that bit out of the way, Mike.
Absolutely.
So welcome everybody. Thank you for joining us. There's lots of good stuff to get through, and Mike is raring to go, so I'll get through a little bit of housekeeping. So the session is being recorded and captions are available, so you can turn those on and off using the CC button at the bottom of your screens. We've got 2 captioners helping us today. That's Jackie and Philip, so welcome to them. Thank you. And we've got BSL interpreters for the session as well. BSL interpreters, so we've got Lynn and Rachel. Thanks for joining us. So you can increase the view of the BSL interpreter panel if you need to by sliding the panel bar to the right. This can only be done on desktops and laptops though, so if you need to use that, best to join on those devices. We are...
Hi Alex, sorry I couldn't.
You're right. We are going to hear from Mike Somerset shortly. He's joining us from Sony. He's going to do a presentation for us on safe listening technology. And then after we've heard from him, there should be some time for Q&As. So if you have any burning questions, please do drop them into the chat function, and then Mike can pick out 1 or 2 to respond to. So on that note, let me hand you over to Mike Somerset from Sony, who's going to cover safe listening technology. Thanks, Mike.
Thank you, Kate. Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. So yes, I am going to run through a few slides about the safe listening technology. Firstly, a little bit about me. So this is me. Oh, skipped a slide. This is me. So yeah, like my name is Mike Somerset. I'm the personal entertainment product marketing manager for Sony Europe. So we're talking about headphones, speakers, things that make music and sound generally. That's my role throughout Sony Europe. So I've been with Sony for many, many years. I actually come from a training background, so a bit more the technical side. But obviously more recently, I've been working a lot with headphones, and that is certainly something that I want to talk to you about in the next few slides. So firstly, I would like to quickly touch on the Make Listening Safe campaign. Like, what is this? What is the Make Listening Safe? So WHO's Make Listening Safe campaign, and why do we need it? Well, this is a something that obviously WHO has been speaking about for a number of years now, and it all comes because of these pretty terrifying figures that we've been hearing. So the direct quote from the WHO: over 1 billion people are at risk of hearing damage due to unsafe recreational listening practices. Now, actually, this is around about 1.1 billion people between the ages of 12 and 35, I believe. Which is a huge number, an enormous amount of people at risk of hearing damage, that sort of unnecessary, unprovoked hearing damage, if you like. It's a real issue. Even in the UK alone, we're talking around about 10 million people at risk of hearing damage. So this is where this is all coming from. This is what frames this conversation. So that's all kind of terrifying, worrying numbers. So the big question obviously is, what is being done about this? How do we react to something which is clearly such a global issue? Well, the answer is initially, so the WHO, as I'm sure we know, is the World Health Organization, working with the ITU, which is the International Telecommunication Union, have created a standard. It's a technology standard. It's called the WHO ITU standard, not the catchiest name, but it's a very, very important important thing. So let me just quickly explain what that is, and then we can look at what Sony is doing specifically. So as we've discussed, the WHO with the Safe Listening campaign, it's actually aimed at two different things. Firstly, it's about seeking to improve listening practices for people exposed to music and other sounds at noisy entertainment venues. That's one part of the WHO Make Listening Safe campaign. The other part is also about people listening to music or other audio content through their personal audio devices. So as you can imagine, that is very much the focus of this standard I just mentioned. The WHO ITU standard is focused on that area. So this is the part that I would like to talk about and how that is being implemented with Sony. So I've mentioned it's a WHO ITU standard, but what is that? What does that mean? So I actually asked for a nice and simple definition from our engineering team, which I'm going to provide to you now. So that's the answer. Hope that's clear for everybody. This is if, like me, sorry, you look at that and think someone's fallen asleep on their keyboard, I will do my best to explain what that actually means. So what I would say everyone understands. I would say largely, you would say the vast majority of people understand that a loud noise, a very quick bang happening near somebody's ears is bad for their hearing. I think most of us understand that and appreciate that that's a problem. Maybe what not everyone is quite so familiar with is how, or not so familiar with, or maybe quite so aware of, is how prolonged noise at a lower level is also damaging. But interestingly, there is a correlation between the two. So how much prolonged noise equals the same amount as a loud bang? And actually, that is really what this comes down to. That's what that equation is telling us. Basically, it's working out the difference between incredible loud noise, how it can immediately damage your ears, and what that's the equivalent to in a longer period of lower noise, but still at a certain volume. That's what this is about. And WHO have recognized this, and what they've done is they've put forward some guidelines on this and recommendations, I should say, on what you should and shouldn't be listened to and what kind of volumes. So as an example, this is some of the guidelines. You've got different volumes, so 75 dB, 80 dB. At first, of course, these may sound very confusing. I mean, I'll go into this in a minute, but to give you an idea, 110 dB is about the volume of a very loud rock concert. So you get an idea, and it will give you an idea of how much volume you should be listening to within a 7-day period or over a certain period of time. So this information is out there, which is fantastic, but that's just one part. We have some guidelines, we have some idea of what is safe to listen to, what we should be listening to, but what do we do next? Because I mean, there is another very clear and obvious issue, which is, especially with younger people. I don't mean to pick on younger people here, but it does seem to happen more so with younger generations. You have busy environments, but you also want to listen to your music. So of course, when you listen to your music in your busy environment, you're often just taking that loud environment and you're adding even louder music on top. And you're enjoying that on your commute to work, or wherever you are, whatever you're doing, listening to very loud music. And this is a problem, and people will continue to do this. So what can we do? Is there a solution? Well, firstly, with that one, I just want to touch on this because there's an interesting point which we've been discussing recently, and I think it's worth us all considering. a technology that we now have in our headphones. Of course, Sony specialize in noise cancelling headphones, but of course these are available all round. But noise cancelling headphones will allow you to lower that external noise, allowing you to focus on your music at a comfortable level. I think many of us may have experienced that moment of, let's say, driving in a car when it's very loud and you turn up the music or to hear the music over the volume of the road or whatever you're driving on. And then when you pull into a quieter road, maybe you've come off the motorway, you pull into a quieter road, you realize just how loud you are listening to that music. And I think you have this issue of people layering noise on top of noise on top of noise to be able to hear what is going on. And of course, that is potentially very, very damaging. So noise cancelling is a very important and exciting technology to allow people to focus on music. You can lower the volume of music and play it at a very comfortable level by completely removing the external noise. So noise cancelling is a nice first step. But we need to, I think, go a bit further than this. Noise cancelling is a good one, but yeah, how can we take this even further? So I want to talk to you just briefly today about the Headphones Connect app, which is a support app for the headphones. If you're not sure what I mean by a support app, when we buy many of these products, these headphones, of course, you can just put them in and you could just use them straight out the box. But it will come with this free, of course, downloadable app, which will allow you to do a bit more with those headphones. And whether that's changing the sound quality, whether that's adjusting the noise cancelling levels, there's a number of things you can do with it. But an exciting feature introduced quite recently over the last year or two with the Sony headphones is a safe listening feature. Now, the safe listening feature, which is within Headphones Connect app, does three things. There is the education part. There is monitoring, and by that I mean sort of tracking your usage of listening habits. And there is the protection element to help protect your ears. So if I may, I'm going to quickly go into this and start by explaining the education side. I think crucial with this whole debate is for people to really understand what we are talking about when we say listening health, and people to recognize what they are potentially doing to their own hearing. And I think if everyone can understand what is going on, we're a long, long way towards solving this issue if everyone was fully educated and understood the risks. So that's the first part of it. There is a section within the app about education. Now, let me just give you a bit of a guideline. So here it is. This is a look at the app. Now, there's a number of things. You can see at the top there, this is a tab called Safe Listening. So within the app, you have this area, Safe Listening, and it's where you can do all of the things I'm about to mention. So we'll start with this. If you click on it's very small writing, apologies, I will read it out to you, but it says the effects of sound, PRSR, on hearing. So you click on that, and what you can see is actually what I very badly tried to explain to you a bit earlier on about what dBs mean. So this is telling us a little bit about 30 dB. What is that? Well, it tells us here 30 dB is a soft whisper, a normal conversation at 60 dB. And there's a whole load of education here, and it's very interesting. You can find out what these numbers mean. But there's also this, the WHO Sound Allowance for Hearing Protection. Now, this is a little part of what I showed you earlier on. So again, it explains a bit more detail about listening to certain volumes over certain periods of time. And then it explains what the safe listening allowance is, and it will put it all quite clearly in the app. So this is the first stage, but I do think it's an important stage. There's other ways we have to do this. I think we have to reach young people, all people, but we have to reach young people and make sure they understand the seriousness of the subject and what they can do. So this is the first stage within the app. So after that, we can look at monitoring or the tracking of what you are doing. So let's say you've been using the headphones and you understand how important safe listening is. Generally, you understand how important safe listening is. Well, wow, that's great, but what do you now need to do? You need to understand how you are doing. What are your listening habits? Are you actually at risk, or are you well within the guidelines? So that's the next thing. So again, within the app, you've got a tab here which says listening habits of the last 7 days, but you could make that the last week, the last month, or even the last year. And it, as you can see from the image there, it actually shows which headphones you've been connecting to the product. Many people, I admit, wouldn't have as many headphones as I do, but this is my job. And you can also see the volume levels that you've been listening to, and if and when you've been at risk. You can see your average sound pressure. It's just a really clear way of saying this is what you've been doing, and this is where you are with your listening health. There is also another quite nice little tab, which I mentioned earlier on about noise cancelling. Now, noise cancelling is very important or very beneficial to people who are trying to protect their ears also. So there is actually a tab there which says the hearing effect reduction through noise cancelling. And what it does is it shows you the amount of external noise that it has blocked from your ears, that it has protected you from. It's quite interesting to see the certain environments that you may be. I know commuting is a big one, certainly on the subway, some very, very loud noises. And actually, by using noise cancelling headphones during those periods of time, you can protect your ears from quite surprisingly high levels, high sound pressure levels, high dB, which ultimately, if you can protect your ears from that, it's really beneficial to your listening health. So it can give you a bit guideline on that. And then arguably the most important part, if you understand the issue and if you can see what your listening habits are, how do we then turn that into protecting you and your ears? So the protection part, there's a couple of different things to point out. Firstly, within the app, you have a very clear indication that shows what the sound pressure is that you're listening to. The image you've got there, that was at 51 dBs I was listening to, which is a perfectly acceptable level to be listening to music. Again, many people may not understand what 51 dB. In fact, I'd be astonished if a lot of people understood what 51 dBs meant, or if that's good or bad. So obviously, just beneath that, there is a link that simply just it links back to one of the screens we showed earlier on, which says what the listening levels mean and if this is damaging or not. You also have a notification option, which I think is, again, very useful if you're someone who is using the headphones, you're aware of this, but you still want to listen to your music at a reasonable level. But if you think it may put you at risk, you want to be told. So there's a notification option, which you can set to different levels. You can either have it at careful mode, you can have it at a sort of a more a sort of less careful, so less sensitive mode. So the careful one will give you a real prior warning before it gets close, or you could set it at a bit more higher level, which will tell you when you've reached your WHO recommended listening limit, and it will warn you. And another thing which has been added, which again is an optional thing, and I must stress these are optional because I think sometimes people worry that you're being kind of made to change the volume when you don't want to change the volume. We would strongly recommend you very much care about your hearing and think about this, but we offer a safe volume control. And this tabbing on and off means that the app and the headphones combined recognize when you are reaching your limit for the duration of time, or your recommended limit. And what it can then start to do is to tailor the volume to ensure that you stay within the WHO guidelines of listening volume. All very, very useful. Again, as I say, this is part education, this is part tracking what you've been doing, and of course then giving you the option, because of course you can just turn the volume down, absolutely, but certainly it's easier to have some of these safe volume controls just to make sure you stay within the guidelines. So let's have a look. I mean, you of course may have a smartphone and you may have a pair of headphones, and this technically should be quite simple, really, because actually all you've got to do is monitor the difference between the sound that's playing on your headphones from the phone. So actually the app, this technology that we are using, it should be pretty simple. The issue is people don't just listen to music from their phone. They may use their headphones to connect to a laptop as well and be listening to music from that. Or they could also have a tablet, let's say, and maybe they listen for that, or multiple things. Maybe it's a TV, it's a games console. All of these things add together. So we can't just take a measurement from the headphones. We can't, sorry, from the phone and say, you've been listening to your music service on the phone, and that is your level. We have to include everything into this calculation. The thing that makes it a bit tricky from a manufacturer's side is multiple different platforms, but also multiple different platforms in terms of iOS, Android, Windows, etc. All of these things have to be taken into consideration. But not only that, may you have multiple platforms, multiple products, etc., that we need to track. You also may have more than one pair of headphones. I obviously, working for Sony, I have a few pairs of headphones, but I regularly use 3. I actually have earbuds I'm using at the moment, which I use a lot for work, and I have my headband ones, which I listen to for music. I also have some running ones. So actually taking into account these, you actually have an awful lot of different transactions between different products, all of which can be building up your weekly allowance of music, your safe recommended allowance, I should say. So that is, again, why the Headphones Connect app has been brought in. It can work with all of these different platforms, whether you're on iOS, Windows, Android, and it will work with any of the Sony headphones that have the safe listening feature. So it must be one of the headphones with the safe listening feature. But if it has that, it will gather all of that information. Essentially, it will save it in the cloud. And what will happen once it's all saved together in your profile, you will always be able to track your listening habits on multiple different products. So that's the Headphones Connect app. When we launched, it was really just with maybe 1 or 2 pairs of headphones, the safe listening feature. Even over the last year or 2, it's expanded greatly. So now we have multiple headphones that are connected. And I think it will also, we can't sort of say specifically what's going to happen in the future, but I say we are, again, planning to continue this. I think it's a really important subject to bring in. So that's the main stuff I wanted to talk about. It's all about us, like I keep mentioning, it's all about first stage of education and making sure people understand how important this is. But then it's about providing the tools. And we, as Sony, are one of the leading audio companies in the world. I think we'll very much see it as our responsibility to be able to give these tools to the customers, people who use the products that we put out there. And therefore, it's very, very important for us for people to be able to understand, to be able to track, and to be able to protect their hearing while they're enjoying the products at the same time. So that's my presentation. I think did I whistle through a little bit? I have a one last thing I would say. We do also have a quiz to see if people have been paying attention. Quiz time. And the question is, which Sony app provides access to the Sony Safe Listening feature? Now, I did mention it several times, and if you're not sure of this one, yeah, it was there. But this is the question we're going to ask. And we're going to offer a few headphones as well. We've got 3 noise cancelling headphones to win. So good luck if you want to get involved. And yeah, hope that goes well. So that's the end of my presentation. Shall I see? Maybe I'll just check to see if there are any questions. I can't see any questions.
Thank you, Mike. It's Kelly here. So we've just realised Zoom has been misbehaving slightly again. So unfortunately, the webinar chat isn't accessible to our lovely attendees here. So they haven't been able to pop any questions into the chat. But we do have the function. If you do want to ask a question, please raise your hand on the tab below. You should have a raise hand option, and we will allow you to talk so you can actually ask your question more directly to Mike rather than through the chat. Really sorry about the webinar chat. Zoom as always. We love this platform. But yes, if you have a question, please raise your virtual hand and we will allow you to talk. give a moment for everyone to think of their questions.
It's stunned silence from such a great. Oh, there we go.
Raised hand. We've got Angela. Angela, I'm going to allow you to talk.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Hi, Angela.
Can you hear me at all?
Yes,
we can hear you.
It seems like unmuting myself has muted you, so I'm not quite sure what's going on here.
Have you the sound on?
Okay, I've just switched my speaker. So what I just wanted to ask is whether there was any adaptation in this available in terms of people who already have some hearing loss and therefore would want to adapt their safe volumes to suit what they themselves can already hear.
Thank you for the question. That's a really good question. Actually, what we're talking about today, this is about that initial preventative stage. So it's the simple answer to that one is no. That's not to say that Sony aren't necessarily working on that kind of thing. But at the moment, no, this is very much for everyday use to make sure that the volume stays within the limit. But I think your question is very, very valid, and I think it's a really important point as well. But on this occasion, no, this is just for that initial one.
Great, thanks very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Anyone else in the audience have any questions for Mike? We can wait. We have a few questions of our own if we want to get the ball rolling, but I'll just wait another minute just in case someone is just looking for that raise hand button. It's just on the bottom of the tab of Zoom. Yes, sometimes we always raise it by mistake. Yeah, if you wanted to look for it, give it just another minute, and then otherwise we have a few questions for you, Mike.
Okay.
I think everyone's too busy filling out your quiz. Let's just go to the questions.
Yeah, I think probably it's a kind of speaks to the education side of things, Mike, but it was what can we do to help people make better decisions to protect their hearing?
Yeah. No, I think you're right. It's a really good question, and it's something that I'd love to be able to give you more insight about what is actually being done. And actually, a lot of what I would say is really coming from my own personal views, having worked with this side of the technology for a little while. I think there certainly is there should be a focus on young people. And I think we're seeing lots of great strides towards warning people in certain ways. One good example for me is gigs. 20 years ago, and you go to a small venue, the chances of someone handing out earbuds at that venue, it wouldn't have happened. I mean, if it happened somewhere, it's certainly not somewhere that I was ever aware of. But it's becoming more and more common. I would love to see that kind of thing happening more. I think we need to target the younger people. I think that's a key one. And also hopefully to be able to do more stuff with artists and people like that. I think there was certainly a time when it wouldn't be even seen as cool to put as earbuds. You'd have guitarists standing right next to the amplifier, and that was cool. But I think we need to move away from that, and maybe that's sometimes done with influencers, maybe that's done with specific artists. I think there'd be there's a lot that could be done. And I think we've really just started. Like I say, seeing earbuds at concerts is really, really important. I think in terms of the technology, this initiative brought in by WHO is huge, and it will. As Sony are going to keep progressing with this and keep making it clearer. What I've shown you on the Headphones Connect app is not by any means final, the final version of what we're going to do. We will keep changing, we'll keep improving. So hopefully it will become more and more clear as time goes on. These kind of bits of information, whether that's in your phones, whether that's in, let's say, a games console, or whether that's from your favorite artists or at a gig, I think we need to just target lots of different places, trickle the information, and hopefully people will start to take it seriously. Like I say, that's my personal view, because I feel very strongly about this, because I've worked with this technology for a short while, sorry, within Sony. But I think that seems to be a sensible way to go.
Fabulous, thank you, Mike. I had a question. So a big part of TechShare Pro this year is about artificial intelligence and AI. So just out of curiosity, is Sony headphones going to implement any form of AI in the future? Are there any plans to incorporate more AI into any of the technology? Just out.
Right. It's quite a broad question, that one, I must say, because AI is being used already in a number of ways with headphones. And as example, we mentioned noise cancelling earlier on. One of the things that we can do is filter out certain noises that you don't want to hear while allowing other noises through. So, for example, if you're using your excuse me, if you're using some Sony noise cancelling headphones, like the ones I'm wearing at the moment, it's the WF-1000X Mark V, very catchy name for you. But this model, you can, if I'm talking on the phone, it should be able to filter out the external noises around me while letting the sound of my voice go into the headphones. So as you can see, and to do that, you use AI, and the AI technology is able to understand and split it up. So there's AI that upscales and improves music as well, which is one of my favorite subjects, but I don't think we've got time to talk about that right now, but it's a good one. So yes, I mean, simple answer to your question, it's already being used in a number of different areas to just help improve things, whether it's sound quality, whether it's noise cancelling, whether it's unwanted noise reduction or ambient sound. It's being used a lot. I think we'll see more of that as it comes, just about fine-tuning some of the technologies that are there already and just making them work that little bit better.
Thank you, Mike. Sally has popped up her hand, so I'm going to give her the permission to speak. Sally, you should get that permission come through whenever you're ready to come off mute.
Thank you. Hi, Mike. What you've just said
Sally.
there has triggered a thought in my head from the previous question. So if AI can improve the sound quality of music, if you have some form of hearing loss, a particular range, certain pitches, would it not be possible to get the headphones via your app to know the range of sounds you can't hear and that be enhanced for you?
I think that's a really interesting point. And from an engineering point of view, of course, I'm not involved within the engineering team, so I wouldn't really be able to say. My inclination is that is something that could be possible for sure. An interesting point. I think that's a really good example of how AI could be used within the subject that we're talking about. And but like I say, in terms of future product planning and development, there's nothing, unfortunately, I can share at the moment. But bits of suggestions like that are always, very good to hear. And I believe that sort of thing could be possible. So yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sally. That's actually a really fascinating question.
Yeah, it's a great question. Yeah.
That would be amazing when we get to that level. And yeah, I feel like if anyone can do it, it's definitely Sony. We're rooting for you. Thank you, Sally. When you can, if you could just pop yourself on mute, unless you've got another question.
No, that's it. Thank you.
Fabulous. Thank you. Does anyone else in the room have any questions at all? Okay, so I don't see any more questions at all. I don't know if Mike, if you had anything else you wanted to mention. Otherwise, we can wrap up if you would like.
Yeah, no, just from I also just want to say thanks again to everyone who attended. I think it's really it's a subject I'm super passionate about, and I think the journey for Sony especially is really up and running. But it's not been long that we've been doing this. So, like I say, hopefully we'll see more going forwards, and hopefully this will get more coverage everywhere. So yeah, again, thank you for attending.
Fabulous. I'll hand over to Kate to wrap up the session. And I just wanted to quickly say thanks again as well. And don't forget to fill out that quiz. I'm going to do it after this. And yeah, let's good luck to everyone on that. All right, I'll hand over to Kate. Thank you, Kate.
Lovely, thank you. So that brings us to the end of the session. So I just wanted to extend our thanks to Mike Somerset from Sony. That was great, Mike. But also to our captioners, Jackie Cassidy, Philip Carruthers, and our BSL interpreters, Lynn Kerwin and Rachel Green. So thanks so much all.
And the recording will be available after this session. Please just wait. It just takes a few hours to process, but we'll pop it on the lobby chat when it's ready for everyone to review.